Good morning. Today we will read another story, The Wise Travelers. First we'll read the story, then we will try to understand that what lesson we are going to learn from this story. Once upon a time there was a village whose headman was very selfish. Not only did he dislike sharing his personal things, but he also asked the villagers to do the same. All the villagers followed their headman and started acting selfishly. One late evening, three weary travelers arrived at the village. They were hungry and decided to ask the villagers for help. The men went around in the village asking for food, but everyone made an excuse and refused to give them anything. The men soon realized that the villagers were lying. These people are very selfish, they must learn to share, the men thought. So they made a plan. The first traveler said loudly, "The poor people in this village have no food. Let us use our secret stone soup recipe and feed everyone." The villagers became curious on hearing this, especially the village headman, whose mouth watered thinking about the soup. "What is a stone soup? How do they make it?" he asked the travelers. The villagers too wondered about this and peeped out of their windows. "Follow us," said the men. "Bring a big pot and some firewood." They reached the village square and put a big pot of water to boil. The villagers gathered around the men to see what they were doing. One of the men took out three smooth round stones from his bag. "The special ingredients," he exclaimed. One by one, he dropped them into the water. So, children, this is a story about a village whose headman was a very selfish man. He was very selfish and he never shared his personal things with anyone. And not only his personal things, he asked the villagers to do the same, means not to share their things also with anyone. Now all the villagers, they followed what their headman said and started acting selfishly. Now one day, late evening, three weary travelers, weary means they were very tired, exhausted, the travelers, they arrived at the village and they were very hungry, and they decided to ask the villagers for help. Now the men went around the village asking all the villagers to help them with some food, but everyone made some excuse, and they refused to give anything. They said that they do not have anything to eat. How can they give it to them? Then when all the villagers decided not to give them anything, when all the villagers refused not to give them anything, then all those three men, those travelers, they understood that the villagers were lying, means they were not telling the truth. Now these people are very selfish, the men thought, and they said that people must learn to share. These villagers must learn to share. So they made a plan. Now first traveler said loudly. Why loudly? So that all the villagers can listen to him. Now he said that poor people in this village, they have no food, so let us use our secret stone recipe and we'll prepare some food and feed it to all the villagers. Now villagers became curious on hearing this. They became curious. They started thinking that what are these travelers going to do? Especially the village headman, because his mouth started watering up thinking about the soup. Now he asked, "What is a stone soup? How do they make it? How do they use it?" Villagers were also wondering, and they started peeping out of their windows. And the men said, "Follow us," and he said, "Bring a big pot and some firewood." They reached the village square and put a big pot of water to boil. They put a big pot of water for boiling. The villagers gathered around the men to see what they were doing. Now, villagers were very curious that what are these travelers going to do? How are they going to prepare a soup with a stone? So, let's see what will happen next in our next video. So, this was a part of the story. Next part we will complete in our next video. Thank you, class.